What's up, guys? Welcome to Odd Pod, to the Odd Broad. This is the Odd Broad herself, and I'm joined by
Golden Matthew.
So today we're going to be doing a quick little PSA. For those people who actually listen and want to do collabs, I ask this in general. Please do not ask me personal questions, i.e. where I work, my bra size, anything like that. That's a total no-no, and I will not tolerate that. I will block you and whatnot. So please, no personal questions like that. Thank you. That's all I wanted to do, is get that off of my chest, because I'm like, I should or shouldn't I? But yeah, I'm going to fucking say that. Don't ask me where I work. Don't ask where I live. Don't ask, really personal questions, because you're not going to get some nice answers.
Plus, if you listened close enough, you would have already figured out where we work.
Yeah. And also, do not try to make any false threats against me, because that's fucked up. Alright? Groovy? Sweet? Awesome. Now that we got that shit out of the way, we are going to be finishing up the West Memphis Three tonight. Where we last left off at the investigation and trial. So, let's see, where did we leave off? Oh, there we go. So we were left off the trials. We were doing the investigation. And when we were doing the investigation, we noticed a lot of discrepancies within witnesses, statements, affidavits. There was a lot of shit that was not making any sense. So, did I remind you guys I got my information from Wikipedia and Murderpedia. For you guys who do not know, Murderpedia is the Wikipedia of serial killers. So, here we go. Trials. Sorry, my bad. Trials. Miss Kelly was tried separately, and Eccles and Baldwin were tried together in 1994. Under the Bruton rule, Miss Kelly's confession could not be admitted against his co-defendants. Thus, he was tried separately. All three defendants pleaded not guilty. Miss Kelly's trial. During Miss Kelly's trial, Richard Offshee, an expert in false confessions and police coercion and professor of sociology at UC Berkeley, testified that the brief recording of Miss Kelly's interrogation was the classic example of police coercion. So, I kind of figured that was coerced, because they kept pushing him. Look at how many hours, close to 28 hours of interrogation. And he's tired. He doesn't want to be questioned the same shit over and over and over.
For another probably 3 days.
Yeah. He doesn't want to fucking fight, just like, he's going to say anything just so he can just like have it stopped. And not to mention, he was still a minor, and his father did not give them permission to interrogate him.
And he wasn't there.
Yeah, here we go. Critics have also stated Miss Kelly's various confessions were that in many respects inconsistent with each other, as well as the particulars of the crime and murder victims, including, for example, an admission that Miss Kelly watched Damien rape one of the boys. Police had initially suspected that the victims had been raped because their anuses were dilated. However, there was no forensic evidence indicating that the murder boys had been raped. Dilation of the anus is a normal postpartum condition, which is actually true, because when you're dead, when the body starts to decompose, muscles start to relax, things start to open more, things leak out. That's why people get glass butt plugs up their butts in mortuaries. I've seen it done. Alright, here we go. This tastes different. I'm drinking Monster. I'm drinking the Papillon, which is butterfly. Tastes good though. On February 5th, 1994, Miss Kelly was convicted by a jury of 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of second-degree murder. The court court sentenced him to life plus 40 years in prison. His conviction was appealed, but the Arkansas Supreme Court affirmed the conviction. Echols and Baldwin's trial. 3 weeks later, Echols and Baldwin went to trial. The prosecution accused the 3 young men of committing a satanic murder. The prosecution called Dale W. Griffiths, a graduate and unaccredited Columbia Pacific University, as an expert in the occult to testify the murders and that were a satanic ritual. Okay, this is where I have a big fucking problem with this guy. A big fucking problem. And I'm
More so than normal.
More so than normal. I am raising my voice for this one because I watched the fucking documentary. I watched how because they did have recordings of the court hearings, and this motherfucker was so contradicting, and not to mention he was so falsely giving so much false information about occult and all this other shit. And you're like, oh my god, where the fuck did this guy get his degree? And it's like he got his degree from the back of a magazine. That's how I felt. That's how my mom felt when we were watching this shit. And we're like, what the fuck, you know? But this dude really fucking pissed me off. And it takes a lot.
I can tell.
A lot to piss me off. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Trust me, I've heard her rant on before.
Yeah, on a lot of shit. And this is like stuff we don't record. Okay. Fuck, but seriously, this dude literally, to me personally, he did not have a fucking clue what he was talking about. Alright, continuing on. Sorry about my little outburst there. On March 17, 1994, Echols and Baldwin were found guilty of murder. The court sentenced Echols to death and Baldwin to life in prison. After trial, the defense team argued that news articles from the time could have been the source for Echols' knowledge about the genital mutilation. Echols said his knowledge was limited to what was on TV. See, that's what I was talking about, word of mouth. The media, because how did they know? There was a leak in the fucking police station. So, the prosecution claimed that Echols' knowledge was nonetheless too close to the facts, since there was no public reporting of the drowning or one of the victims had been mutilated more than others. Echols testified that Detective Ridge's description of the earlier conversation, which was not recorded regarding to those particular details, was inaccurate, and indeed some of the other claims by Ridge were lies. Mara Leverett, an investigative journalist and the author of Devil's Knot, argues that Echols' information may have come from police leaks, such as Detective Gitchell's comments to Mark Byers that circulated amongst the local public. That's the fucking thing I told you, right? Leaks. There were so many fucking leaks. They weren't supposed to give out that certain information. See, this is where he probably got the information, you know. So that's how he could have.
Pretty much everyone in the neighborhood.
Yeah, basically because the fucking cop went up to him and told the father, hey, you know, your stepson was, you know, it's just.
All it takes is really some nosy neighbor being close in the back.
Right.
And then them telling their neighbor and
so on. And so on. Yeah. The defense team objected, and the prosecution attempted to question Echols about his past violent behaviors, but the defense objections were overruled. Okay. Aftermath. Criticism of the investigation. Well, there's been a widespread criticism of how the police handled the crime scene. Ms. Kelly's former attorney, Dan Stidham, might cite multiple substantial police errors in the crime scene. Yes, there was. Characterizing as it as literally trampled, especially the creek bed. The bodies had been removed from the water before the coroner arrived to examine the scene and determine the state of rigor mortis, allowing the bodies to decay on the creek bank and to be exposed to sunlight and insects. The police did not telephone the coroner almost until 2 hours after the discovery of the floating shoe, resulting in a late appearance by the coroner. Officials failed to drain the creek in a timely manner and secure possible evidence in the water. The creek was sandbagged after the bodies were pulled from the water. Stidham calls... Yes. See, this is what I'm talking about. They mishandled this case so fucking bad. Alright. Stidham calls the coroner's investigation extremely substandard when there was a small amount of blood found at the scene that was never tested. According to the HBO documentaries, Paradise Lost, The Child Murders at Robin Hood Hills, and Paradise Lost 2, Revelations, no blood was found at the crime scene, indicating that the location where the bodies were found was not necessarily the location where the murders actually happened. After the initial investigation, police failed to control disclosure of the information and speculation about the crime scene. According to Leverett, police records were a mess. To call them disorderly will be putting it mildly. I say so. Leverett.
If those policemen were still in fucking that job afterwards, they were lucky.
For real. Fuck that one up royally. According to Leverett, police records were a mess. Yeah.
Really, you did at least have a chance to make a mistake.
Seriously. She speculated that a small local police force was overwhelmed by the crime, which was unlike any they had ever investigated. Police refused an unsolicited offer of aid and a consultation from the violent crimes expert at the Arkansas State Police. They offered you fucking help, and you little big small cops fucking thought you guys could take care of it. That's a problem right there.
That was the problem when they were.
That's a fucking ego. That's an ego problem right there. That is a fucking ego problem. Because no matter how many times you see it, they have. Oh my god. Yeah. This fucking case did it for me, guys. I was like, what the fuck when I was watching the video. I was watching the documentary, which I found on Discovery Plus. Also, I have the book Devil's Knot. So, you know, I read it. I was pissed off the whole time I read it. It's like, it was back and forth. It was like a back and forth tangent of they did this, but they didn't do this. And then the person, their so-called occult expert, was being so contradictive. And it was so fucking, oh my god. It was just annoying. Alright, let's see.
Put it simply, if I wasn't here for something else, she probably would have won.
I probably would have. Alright, here we go. Let's see, where did we go? Okay. And critics suggested this was due to the WMPDs being under investigation by the state police for a suspected death from the Crittenden County Drug Task Force. Leverett further noted that some of the physical evidence was stored in paper sacks obtained from a supermarket with the supermarket's name on the bag. What the fuck?
AKA, everything about it was fucked.
They really didn't give a shit. Rather than containers of known controlled origin. When police speculated about the assailant, the juvenile probation officer assisting the scene of the murder speculated that Eccles was capable of committing these murders, stating it looks like Damien Eccles finally killed someone. This is what I'm talking about. Okay, this is what I was fucking talking about. Alright, guys. You can't assume anybody is guilty like that. There has to be probable cause. Probable fucking cause. There was no probable cause there.
And unfortunately, a lot of cold cases end up like this. Either, one, no information was actually able to be obtained, which unfortunately does happen. Two, miscommunication amongst the fucking law enforcement.
Exactly. And then for the juvenile probation officer to go ahead and fucking pinpoint who they fucking think did it, that's a problem right there.
Pinpointing a crime on someone who you have no evidence about.
Maybe this kid, he probably had a grudge against this kid, you know? Who fucking knows, you know? Like,
probably did have a grudge.
Oh my god. Okay.
Based on that tone.
Exactly. Brent Turvey, a forensic scientist and criminal profiler, stated in the film Paradise Lost 2 that human bite marks could have been left at least on one of the victims. However, these potential bite marks were first noticed in photographs after years that the trial were not inspected by board-certified medical examiner until 4 years after the murders.
What?
Yes, that's what it says. The defense expert testifies that the mark in question was not an adult bite mark. While experts put on the state concluded that there was no bite mark at all, the state experts also had examined the actual bodies for any marks. The others conducted an expert photo analysis of injuries. Upon further examination, it was concluded that if these marks were bite marks, they did not match any of the teeth marks of the three convicted. Alright, so...
They legit had evidence of the actual person.
But they didn't fucking test it.
Exactly.
Appeals and new evidence.
Unfortunately, people, one big issue with DNA. After the person's dead and they start decaying, your time is very limited.
Yeah, you have a certain amount of time to collect all the evidence and all that. Yeah, before the body starts.
And if it's been, say, a year or you're pretty much already late.
Okay, in the case, guys, remember in the case of John Wayne Gacy and Dean Corll, they used lime to advance decomp, so they wouldn't know how the person died. But when they were digging bodies out of Gacy's house, there was various state of decomp because of the lime use. But the various state of decomps actually was kind of like they created a timeline of like how the person was murdered. And in the same way as Dean Corll's. Dean Corll's victims were the same because Gacy got his idea of strangulation and all, how to get rid of the bodies from Corll. So, here we go. On May 1994, the three defendants appealed their convictions. The convictions were upheld on direct appeal. On June 1996, Ms. Kelly's lawyer, Dan Stidham, was preparing to appeal to the U.S. Supreme Court. The 2007 Echoes petition for a retrial based on the statute permitting lost post-conviction testing of DNA evidence due to technological advances made since 1994, which might provide exoneration for the wrongfully convicted. However, the original trial Judge David Burnett, disallowed presentation of this information on his court. This ruling was in turn thrown out by the Arkansas Supreme Court as all three defendants on November 2010. Okay. Alright, here we go. John Mark Byers knife, 1993. John Mark Byers, the adoptive father of victim Christopher Byers, gave a knife to the cameraman Doug Cooper, who was working with documentary makers Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky while filming the first Paradise Lost feature. The knife was a folding hunting knife manufactured by Kershaw. According to the statements given by Berlinger and Sinofsky, Cooper informed them of this receipt of the knife on December 19th to 1993. After the documentary crew returned to New York, Berlinger and Sinofsky were reported to have discovered what appeared to be blood on the knife.
Oh my god.
HBO executives ordered them to return the knife to
legitimately had every single piece of fucking evidence.
The Memphis Police Department. The knife was not received at the West Memphis Police Department until January 8th of 1994. Byers initially claimed the knife had never been used. However, after blood was found on the knife, Byers stated he had used it only once to cut deer meat. When the blood matched both his and Christopher's blood type, Byers said he had no idea how blood might have gotten onto the knife. During interrogation, West Memphis police suggested Byers that he might have left the knife out on accident, and with Byers agreed with this. Byers later stated that he may have cut his thumb. However, further testing of the knife produced inconclusive results to the source of the blood. Uncertainty remained due to the small amount of blood and because both John Mark Byers and Chris Byers had the same HLA-DQA genotype. Byers agreed to pass the polygraph test about the murders during the filming of Paradise Lost 2 Revelations, but the documentary indicated that Byers was under the influence of several psychoactive prescription medications that could have affected the test results. Alright.
Oh my god.
Okay. So, possible teeth imprints, 1996 and 97. We're going through the evidence right now. Following the convictions, Echols and Ms. Kelly and Baldwin submitted the imprints of the teeth. These were compared to the alleged bite marks on Stevie Branch's forehead that had not been mentioned in the original autopsy or trial. No matches were found. John Mike Spire had his teeth removed in 97 after the first trial, but before an imprint could be made, he stated that reasons for the removal are apparently contradictory. He claimed both that his seizure medication he was taking caused a periodontal disease, and he had planned the removal because other kinds of dental problems which had troubled him for years. I call bullshit. After an expert examined the autopsy photos and noted that what he thought might be the imprint of a belt buckle on Byers' corpse, the elder Byers revealed to the police that he had spanked his stepson shortly before the boy had disappeared. That is actually fact, because he literally told the cops, I gave him a few licks before the other day, and that's what he kind of thought was kind of the precursor of him running away. So he did spank him before he
Unfortunately,
disobeyed.
spankings are normal.
Yeah, in childhood homes. So if you're being a disciplined parent, child, yeah, whatever. Okay.
If you actually punish your kid for fucking up.
Yeah. All right. Remember Vicky Hutchinson? I brought her up earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Vicky Hutchinson's recantation.
Oh, good Lord.
2003. In October 2003, Vicky Hutchinson, who had played a part in the arrest of Miss Kelly, Eccles, and Baldwin, gave an interview to the Arkansas Times in which she stated that every word she had given to the police was a fabrication. She further asserted that the police had implied that if she did not cooperate with them, they would take away her child.
Good Lord!
Yeah.
AKA, the police were fucking threatening them.
That is so fucked up. She said when she visited the police station, employees had photographs of Eccles, Baldwin, and Miss Kelly on the wall and were using them as dart targets. She also claims that the audio tape in the police set was unintelligible and they eventually lost. Was perfectly clear and contained no incriminating statements. So she said the cops basically forced her to lie or they were going to take her kid away.
There is so many more issues than just fucking drugs disappearing in that place.
For real.
There's an issue of abuse of law enforcement.
Like, what crack were they smoking?
Hell, I think it's more than just crack at that point. Fucking doing every single drug in that building.
For real, look at it was like they were getting investigated by the state police. That fucking says something.
That means that not only did that county not have, at that point, any permission to be worrying about doing a case, they should have had the fucking state police do it only.
Exactly. Alright. DNA testing and new physical evidence. 2007. Alright, in 2007, DNA collected from the same crime scene was tested. None was still found that had matched Eccles or Baldwin or Miss Kelly. So none of the DNA that was found there matched them. A hair not consistent with Steve Branch's father, Terry Hobbs, was found tied into the knots used to bind one of the victims. The prosecutors, while conceding that no DNA evidence tied the accused to the crime scene, they said the state stands behind its convictions of Eccles and his co-defendants. Pamela Hobbs, May 5th, 2009, declaration in the United States District Court, Eastern District of Arkansas, Western Division, indicates that one hair was the hair consistent with the hair of Terry's friend David Jacoby. And I'm going to read a little passage here. Additionally to the murders, my sister Jolene McCauley and I found Terry's nightstand, in Terry's nightstand. Terry's nightstand. Yeah, Terry's nightstand. Thank you very much. I can't talk for shit, guys. When I get fucking heated, I start mispronouncing words. And it's fucking bad.
And lucky for her, I have no choice but to be able to read shit.
Yeah, he's my backup, guys. I wouldn't know what I do with the Golden Matthew right now.
Especially for the fact that if I couldn't read shit properly, I'd be fucked for what I do on Wattpad.
So I found in Terry's nightstand a knife that Stevie carried with him constantly, and which I had believed was with him when he died. It was a pocket knife that my father had given to Stevie, and Stevie loved that knife. I had been shocked that the police did not find it with Stevie when they found his body. I had always assumed that my son's murderer had taken the knife during the crime, but I could not believe it was in Terry's things. He had never told me he had it. Also, my sister Jolene had told me that she saw Terry wash clothes, bed linens, and curtains from Stevie's room at the odd time around the murders. There was an additional new evidence discovered in 2007 that I cannot now recall. So that may be a possible fucking suspect.
The two big suspects I'm thinking of. The
dads.
And that fucker.
Yeah, they're both dads. Oh, God.
Hell.
Foreman and jury misconduct. Here we go, 2008. Ooh, Depeche Mode. People are people, so why should it be? Okay, don't get me started on that. Alright, in July 2008 it was revealed that Kent Arnold, the jury foreman on the Eccles Baldwin trial, had discussed the case with an attorney prior to the beginning of deliberations. Arnold was accused of advocating for the guilt of the West Memphis Three and sharing knowledge of inadmissible evidence, like the Jesse Miss Kelly statements with other jurors at the time. Legal experts agreed that this issue could result in reversal of the conviction of Jason Baldwin and Damien Echols.
They should have got a reversal fucking ages ago.
Seriously. In September 2008, attorney, now judge, Daniel Stidham, he's a judge now, who represented Miss Kelly in 94, testified that the post-conviction relief hearing. Stidham testified under oath that during the trial, Judge David Burnett erred that making an improper communication with the jury during the deliberations. Stidham overheard Judge Burnett discuss taking a lunch break with the jury foreman and heard the foreman reply that the jury was almost finished. He testified that Judge Burnett responded, "You'll need food for when you come back for sentencing," and that foreman asked in return what would happen if the defendant was acquitted. Stidham said the judge had closed the door without answering. He testified that his own failure to put this incident on the court record and failure to meet the minimum requirements in state law to represent the defendant in a capital murder case that was evidence of ineffective assistance of counsel, and that Miss Kelly's conviction should have been vacated. So he kind of figured something was up between the judge and the foreman, but he should have said something that way he would have been vacated.
Unfortunately,
he didn't.
Which he probably regretted greatly.
Probably. Request for retrial, 2007 to 2010. And October 29, 2007, papers were filed in federal court by Echols' defense lawyers seeking a retrial on his immediate release from prison. Filing a cited DNA evidence linking Terry Hobbs, the stepfather of one of the victims, to the crime scene. New statements from Hobbs' now ex-wife also presented the filing of the new expert testimony that the supposed knife marks on the victims, including the injuries to Byers' genitals, were in fact a result of animal predation after the bodies had been dumped. On September 10, 2008, Circuit Court Judge David Burnett denied the request for a retrial, citing the DNA test was inconclusive. That the ruling was appealed to the Arkansas Supreme Court, which heard oral arguments on the case on September 30, 2010. The Arkansas Supreme Court ruling 2010. November 4th, the Arkansas Supreme Court ordered a lower judge to consider whether newly analyzed DNA may be might exonerate the three. The justices also instructed the lower court to examine claims of misconduct by the jurors who sentenced Damien Echols to death and Jesse Miss Kelly and Jason Baldwin to life in prison. In early December 2010, David Burnett was elected to the Arkansas State Senate. How the fuck is he how is he still a judge? Now he was elected to a state senate. Okay.
A state of racist or fucked up people.
Circuit, I forgot this corner. That's Sister fucking USA, right? One of the Circuit Court Judge David Laser was selected to replace David Burnett and preside in the evidentiary hearings mandated by the successful appeal. Plea deal and release, 2011. After states of negotiations of August 19, 2011, Echols, Baldwin, and Miss Kelly were released from prison as part of a plea deal, making the hearings ordered by the Arkansas Supreme Court unnecessary. The three entered into unusual Alford plea deals. The Alford plea is a legal mechanism that allows defendants to plead guilty while asserting their actual innocence in cases where defendants concede that prosecutors have sufficient evidence to secure a conviction. Stephen Braga, an attorney with Ropes and Gray, who took up Echols' defense on a pro bono basis beginning in 2009, negotiated the plea agreement with the prosecutors. Under the deal, Judge David Laser vacated the previous convictions, including the capital murder convictions for Echols and Baldwin, and ordered a new trial. Each man entered in an Alford plea to lesser charges of first and second degree murder. While verbally stating their innocence, Judge Laser then sentenced them to time served, a total of 18 years and 78 days. They were each given a suspended imposition of sentence of 10 years. If they reoffend, they could be sent back to prison for 21 years. Factors cited by prosecutor Scott Ellington for agreeing that the plea deal included that two of the victims' families had joined the cause of defense, that the mother of a witness who testified about Echols' confession had questioned her daughter's truthfulness, and that the state crime lab employee who collected fiber evidence at Echols and Baldwin's homes at their arrest had died. As part of the plea deal, the three men cannot pursue civil action against the state for wrongful imprisonment. Many of the men's supporters and opponents who still believe in them guilty were unhappy with the unusual plea deal. In 2011, supporters pushed Arkansas Governor Mike Beebe, I don't know how I want to say it. Whatever the fuck. to pardon Eccles, Baldwin, and Miss Kelly based on their innocence. Beebe would deny the request unless there was evidence showing someone else committed the murders. Prosecutor Scott Ellington said the Arkansas State Crime Laboratory would seek other suspects by running searches on any DNA evidence produced in a private laboratory test during the defense team's investigation. This would include running the results through the FBI's combined DNA index system. Ellington said that although he still considered the men guilty, the three would likely be acquitted if a new trial were held because of the powerful legal counsel representing them now, the loss of evidence over time, and the change of heart among some of the witnesses. Okay. Family and law enforcement options. They were options. The family of the three victims were divided in their opinions as the guilt or innocence of the West Memphis Three. In 2000, the biological father of Christopher Byers, Rick Murray, expressed his doubts that the guilty verdicts on the West Memphis Three. 2007, Pamela Hobbs, the victim of Steve Branch, joined those saying they who had publicly questioned the verdicts, calling them a reopening of the verdicts and further investigation of the evidence. In late 2007, John Mark Byers, who previously vehement his beliefs that Eccles, Miss Kelly, and Baldwin were guilty, also announced that he now believes that they are innocent. I made the comment if it were ever proven that they were innocent, I'd be the first to lead the charge to their freedom. And Byers said, and take every opportunity that I have to voice that the West Memphis Three are innocent and the evidence have proof they're innocent. Byers has spoken to the media on behalf of the convicted and has expressed his desire for justice for the families to both of the victims and the three accused. 2010, the district judge Brian S. Miller ordered Terry Hobbs, the stepfather of Stevie Branch, to pay $17,590 to Dixie Chick singer Natalie Means for legal costs stemming to the defamation lawsuit he filed against the band. I'm sorry, I had to laugh at that. Miller dismissed a suit. I wondered what the fuck he did. Miller dismissed the suit Hobbs filed over Maine's remarks and writings implying that he was involved in killing his stepson. And judge said to Hobbs had chosen to involve himself in a public discussion over whether the convictions were just. John E. Douglas, a former longtime FBI agent and current criminal profile, said that these murders were an indicative of a single murderer intent on degrading and punishing the victims, then a trio of unsophisticated teenagers. Douglas believed that the perpetrator had a violent history and was familiar with the victims and the local geography. Douglas was formerly FBI unit chief for 25 years of the investigative support unit of the National Center for Analysis of Violent Crime. He stated that his report for Eccles' legal team and that there was no evidence the murders were linked to satanic rituals and that post-mortem animal predation could explain the alleged knife injuries. He also said that the victims had died from a combination of blunt force trauma and drowning, in a crime which he believed was driven by a personal cause. So, if you guys want to see any documentaries on this whole case, this is where you can look for them. Paradise Lost, the child murders at Robin Hood Hills, Paradise Lost 2, Revelations, and Paradise Lost 3, Purgatory. They're all directed by Joe Berlinger and Bruce Sinofsky. They have documented the case and were strongly critical of the verdict. In these films, also the first time Metallica allowed their music to be used in a movie. Wow. I'm sorry, I had to laugh at that. There have also been a number of books about this case. I actually have one of the books. It's called Devil's Knot by Mara Leverett, Blood of Innocence by Guy Real, and The Last Pentacle of the Sun, Writings in Support of the West Memphis Three. So this is where you can actually watch those. And you'll find the West Memphis Three thing on Discovery Plus. So
wherever you found it, we're not going to judge.
Yeah, there's actually songs. Some people wrote the songs. Some songs. Remember how we were saying rock stars were involved in this shit? Okay, so the album Free, the West Memphis Three, was released by Coke Records, organized by Eddie Spaghetti, the band Super Suckers. The band featured a number of original songs about the case and other recordings by artists such as Steve Earle, Tom Waits, L7, and Joe Strummer. Henry Rollins worked on with other vocalists from various rock, hip-hop, punk, and metal groups and members of Black Flag and the Rollins Band in a compilation of Rise Above, 24 Black Flag songs to benefit the West Memphis Three. For those of you guys who don't know, Henry Rollins is a punk singer. He's also an actor.
And I feel like he felt they were innocent as well.
Yeah. So, Frida 3 on 2011 on April 20, released on April 28th on 2011 by the band Disturbed. Released a title called 3. So yeah, there's a lot of
controversies.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversies. There's a song called show called Wrongfully Convicted. That's what I was talking about. What I found on Discovery
and that's
Plus.
Where you discovered this case, and you're like,
yeah.
And then you started getting heated.
Yeah. So the thing was, when I found out about this case, was my mom was watching this show, and I was like, okay, well, I'll check it out, So you started watching it. I started watching it, and I was like, this is fucked up. Unfortunately, that's crazy. Unfortunately, this is the same day I was getting my tattoo done, so I was like, kind of like really paying attention to it and all that other shit. And then like when I got home, I was like, all right, I'll finish watching it when I get home from getting my tattoo done. Yeah. Long story short, I'm like, okay, I'm watching this, and then I had to go get my vaccine shot. My COVID vaccine shot, so I'm fully vaccinated. Yay! Yay! High five! Teamwork. And then I sat there. My mom likes to. We like to go to Goodwill. She likes to go to Goodwill to find some like different things. I like to go because of the books. Anyways, I found The Devil's Not There, so I kind of took that as a sign to fucking do this one. And I knew it was gonna get Matthew heated because of all the fucking discrepancies in the fucking case.
There's one thing she's learned about me. If I sense some BS, I call it the fuck out.
Yeah. See, we kind of figured the cops were already shady in the beginning.
They were shady as fuck in the beginning.
In the beginning and then until the end too. They're like real
shady from start to finish.
They literally refused help. They were under investigation from the state police. They were like literally leaking shit out, which was not fucking cool. And the shit goes on from there. I mean, oh my god.
If they didn't have to sign they could not go after the cops afterwards. Those cops would have been put in prison for false fucking information.
Seriously. Alright, guys. So we're gonna cut this shit now. Tonight, since it's Mother's Day, happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there listening. Yeah. We're gonna be going into the case of Andrea Yates. For those of you guys who don't know, it's Mother's Day. Why not start with a killer mom? Alright, guys.
Also, for last minute thought for me, fabricating evidence is a huge crime.
Mm-hmm. Well, I wonder how many people got away with that too. That was in law enforcement.
Unfortunately, too many.
Yeah. Alright, guys. So, catch us on the flip side. We shall see you guys tonight. And for all your moms, like I said, happy Mother's Day. This has been Odd Pods with the Odd Broad. And
Golden Matthew.
We're signing off. Bye. If I could shut it off.